Hi everyone, it's me, Spring, the fiber enthusiast, and welcome to the channel. Today is going to be a pattern tutorial. Today's pattern is going to be this accessories pouch. Now it is Tunisian crochet. You are welcome to try to do this a little bit smaller or on a standard size hook. I do not have one in front of me, but you would want a hook that is not ergonomic. Something that has a straight shaft and does not have an enlarged handle or anything extra on the handle. All right, so I also have tutorials out for both of the stitches, the Tunisian stitches, that I will be using for today's pattern tutorial. If you would like to go back and check out the ribbed stitch, which is a 2x1 ribbing, there will be a card inserted in the right hand corner of the screen. If you would like to check out the arrowhead stitch, there also will be a card in the right hand corner of the screen. That is for just your stitches and smaller swatch sample. For this tutorial, you will need a couple of buttons. And we'll just go ahead and open that up. And you will need a pair of scissors. So here's my buttons and a needle to sew those buttons on. And you will need a darning needle to sew in your ends as well. You will need some worsted weight yarn. And I would use a little bit smaller of a Tunisian hook than normal. We want this to be slightly tighter than your average stitch. And if the top or the bottom of your work curls just a little bit, it's okay. It will be under the fold of your little closure there. But that's what it looks like. Now for this particular one, I did it in a purple from Mainstay, I believe it was, and for the top part here, I did it in Sunset, which is, I love this yarn, if you're curious of what I used for the original. All right, so I'm going to move that out of the way and we're going to get started. To begin, we're going to be working the actual body of the bag itself, so this bottom part, and it will be a long flat panel that we fold in half and sew up the sides. So for this particular tutorial, I am using some Caron Simply Soft, and you will need to do multiples of 2, so you're going to need to chain a total of 26. The hook size that I am using for this particular tutorial and sample here is a 5mm. So here I have chain 26, and I did a Tunisian simple stitch all the way to the end of the chain, picking up the 25 loops to create 26 stitches. Then I just did my back pass, the standard Tunisian back pass. That gives us a foundation to work from right here. Next, we will begin our repeat for the Tunisian rib stitch. Okay, let's begin our repeat row for our ribbed stitch. We're going to start with a purl stitch. We're going to bring our yarn in front of our hook and push it towards the front of our work. We're going to go into our very next vertical bar. Now we can wrap our yarn around behind our hook, yarning over our hook and pulling that loop through that vertical stitch. You have made your first purl stitch. Now we're going to Tunisian knit stitch each of the next 2 stitches. So you're going to insert your hook in between the front and back vertical bar and go all the way through your work, yarn over and pull up a loop. And then we're going to repeat that for the next one. And that is your repeat to the end of the row. Bring your yarn in front of the hook, go under your next vertical bar, bring the yarn behind your hook, yarn over, and sometimes you have to hold that yarn down below the stitch and pull that yarn over through the vertical stitch. That's your purl. And then 2 Tunisian knit stitches. Now you're going to repeat that all the way to the end of the row. Once we've reached the end of the row, I will meet back up with you. Okay, once you have reached the end of the row, your last 2 stitches before your final end stitch here should have been knit stitches. To do this very last stitch of the first row, you want to make sure that you're catching both of the legs of the last stitch, so on its side here, and yarn over and pull up a loop. Now we're going to do a standard Tunisian back pass. You're going to yarn over and chain 1, yarn over, go through 2, yarn over, go through 2, and you're going to continue that until there is 1 loop remaining. You will repeat those 2 rows until your fabric is approximately 10 inches in height. Once you have reached that, I will meet back up with you and we will work on the next part. Okay, so once you have your 10 inches of rib fabric, you're just going to fold it in half right now, just so that way we can begin the next part. Now, the next part of this tutorial is for the closing flap here. And for that, we are going to be doing the arrowhead stitch. And we're only going to be working approximately 3 to 4 inches of that particular stitch repeat. So let's go ahead and get started with that. Now I'm going to continue with a different color. So I'm going to go ahead and cut away from this particular fabric here. But before I do that, I'm going to insert my hook back into the last 2 loops. So just like this. So before you yarn over and pull through those last 2 stitches, that's what we have. And that's where we're going to pick up our new yarn color. Now I'm going to do the same yarn color way that I did for the purple one right here for the top of this one. So I'm just going to place a slip knot on my hook and complete this last stitch with the new colorway. So pulling through and through, just like that. Okay, so now we're connected. We have our loop on our hook, and we're going to find our next 2 stitches. The first one is your purl stitch here, and the next one is the very first of your knit stitch repeat. So here we are, we're under both of those very first 2 stitches, and we're going to yarn over and pull through both of them. That's a Tunisian 2 together. Now we're going to yarn over by coming around the hook from the back side and repeat. Find your next 2 stitches, sliding your hook underneath those vertical bars. Yarn over and pull up a loop. Then yarn over. Find your next 2 stitches, insert your hook, yarn over and pull up a loop. Then yarn over. And you're going to continue to do that all the way to the end. Once you've reached the end, I'll meet back up with you and show you how to complete this row. Okay, so I'm coming down here to my last 3 stitches. We're going to go ahead and work those together. Yarn over, find your next 2 vertical bars, and Tunisian 2 together. And we're down to 1 stitch. Finish your repeat with your yarn over and insert your hook into that very last stitch. Yarn over and pull up a loop. Now we're going to do a standard Tunisian back pass. Yarn over and chain 1. Yarn over, go through 2. Yarn over, go through 2. Yarn over, go through 2. And you're going to continue to do that. Make sure that you're working those yarn overs as separate stitches. Just like this. Now, once you've reached the end and you have 1 loop left on your hook, I will meet back up with you and we will do row 2's repeats together. Okay, let's begin our row 2 repeat. We are now going to Tunisian simple stitch our very next vertical bar. So Tunisian simple. And now we're going to do a Tunisian knit stitch into the yarn over. The yarn over has a front bar right there, and it has a back bar right there. So this is your stitch. That's the yarn over. And we're going to Tunisian knit that stitch and repeat. Tunisian simple, and then Tunisian knit. And if you look, you're going into these openings in between the vertical bars. So Tunisian simple, and then Tunisian knit into that opening. And you're going to continue to work this all the way to the end of the row. I will meet up with you at the last couple of stitches. Okay, so we're down here at the very end of our second row repeat, and we're going to finish off our last 2 stitches together. So we still have 1 yarn over left to Tunisian knit, and then we have our end stitch down here. Make sure that you're picking up both legs of that stitch. And now we're going to Tunisian back pass. So chain 1, yarn over, go through 2, yarn over, go through 2. And you're going to continue that until you have reached the end and you have 1 loop left on your hook. I'll meet up with you at that point. Okay, now you're just simply going to repeat those 2 rows. We're going to go in and find our first 2 stitches and Tunisian 2 together for those stitches. Then we're going to yarn over and repeat the next 2 stitches, Tunisian 2 together. Yarn over, Tunisian 2 together. Yarn over, Tunisian 2 together. And you're going to repeat that to the end of the row. Do your standard Tunisian back pass, and then we will just briefly go over the second row repeat. Okay, we're going to do that second row. We're going to Tunisian simple stitch and Tunisian knit stitch. Tunisian simple, Tunisian knit. And you're going to continue to work that all the way to the end and then do your standard Tunisian back pass. You're going to repeat those 2 rows until you have approximately 3 to 4 inches of fabric with this stitch pattern. And what we're looking for is a closure. We want to be able to have it show both colors, unless you want to put the buttons all the way at the bottom and make this fabric reach the bottom, in which case you would need to do approximately 5 inches of fabric in this pattern. All right, so next we're going to continue to work on this for 3 to 4 inches. At that point, we will come back and show how to bind it off, and then sew our buttons on and sew our fabric together. I'll meet up with you once I have this amount of fabric complete. Okay, so here I am. I am approximately 3 inches from where I started the new stitch pattern. I'm right at 3 inches. Okay, now that was the Tunisian 2 together, yarn over, Tunisian 2 together, yarn over row. Now we're going to complete this and bind off in pattern. So our next row is Tunisian simple stitch. And then what I did was a single crochet, Tunisian knit stitch, and single crochet, Tunisian simple stitch, and single crochet, Tunisian knit stitch, and single crochet. And I repeat that all the way to the end of the row. Now, once I've reached the end of the row, I will clip away from both balls of yarn, and we can begin sewing up this project. Okay, so now that we have our ends sewn in, we have bound off from our pattern here, and now what we have is this long piece of fabric. So what we're going to want to do is right sides in, fold up the bottom of the fabric to meet where we joined our new colorway, or where the new stitch pattern began. And we're going to fold it up like this. And now you can take a couple stitch markers if you want and join the corners of both sides just like this. You are welcome to do so. And I'll go ahead and do that with you just so you can see what I'm talking about. And I'm going to do it with a couple of just fabric clips here. So what I'm going to do is meet those two together and place a fabric clip, and then I'll turn it around on the other side and do the same thing, meeting those two together and placing a fabric clip. Okay. Now you're going to get some of either the same fabric or the same yarn as the fabric that you have here, or you can use whatever you wish, contrasting color. And what we're going to do is whip stitch the ends here. And I like to work from the top down. So where we have these clips here, I like to work from that point down to where it's folded over. And what I'm going to do is pull this first clip off and out of the way. And I'm going to insert my needle. I'm going to go ahead and zoom in so you can see really good. Okay, so I'm going to insert my needle under both legs of the side of that last stitch. And I'm going to come over here and do the same thing on the second half. And now I'm just going to pull quite a bit through so that way I can start working the whip stitch here. Or mattress stitch, whichever suits you. This is how I'm doing it. So now I'm going to reach back to the back panel again, and I'm going to, the same thing, go underneath the next stitch down, both legs on the front and back. Now I'm going to pull that through. Just like that. And I'm going to continue working down this side and do the exact same thing to the other side of the little pouch here. And once I get to the bottom, what I'll do is give both ends here a tug, and that'll tighten those stitches up. So go ahead and stitch both sides of this fabric, and we'll come back and do the next step. Okay, so now we have both sides completely sewn. We're going to turn it right side out, poke those corners out just a little bit. And here we are. So now we need to determine button placement. You're going to go ahead and pull over the top of your fabric. That was the arrowhead. That is our flap. And you can adjust this however you see fit as to where you place your buttons. I try to do my buttons as evenly as possible. And what I'll do is count over. I have from the yarn overs from that pattern, I have these holes. So I'm going to count over 1, 2, 3, and that's where one button will go. And then on the other side, I will count in between the first 2 stitches, 1, 2, and 3. And I will try to place it on the same, basically the same distance from the edge as this side. So like such. And I'll get an idea as to where I want to place them. This one is going to be on this ridge here from the rib. And this one is in the very first purl section. So now I have an idea as to where I will be placing my buttons. I can move that flap out of the way. So then you're just going to get a needle and corresponding yarn, whether it's the same yarn as the fabric, that is your 10 inches of fabric for the body of the bag, or if it's a different color. What I have here is a beading needle, and that's what I'm using for putting on my buttons. So I'm just going to go ahead and place my button where I want it, and from the inside, insert my needle and start sewing on the button. Now I just make a couple of wraps with this yarn. So I'll pull it through till there's enough to tie a tail, and go through this side. And then I'll do it one more time just for a little bit of security measure here. Pull this one all the way through and go through one more time here. Pull it through like that, and then I can tighten them down, and I will just tie a square knot, or a surgeon's knot is better. Remove that. And then what I'll do is to tie the surgeon's knot, I'm going to go around twice like that. Tighten it down, and then I can go and do the last part of the knot. And now that is good and will stay put. So I'm just going to clip away that tail there and do the same thing with the other button. And that's what it'll look like on that side. So I'm going to go ahead and do the last button, and I hope that you have enjoyed this tutorial and that you get to make this. If you do, I would love to see it. You can share it on our Facebook group. You can send it to me in an email. Just send me a picture and let me know little basic details, what kind of yarn you use, type stuff. And yeah, I really hope that you enjoyed this. If you would like to see more Tunisian patterns like this, where they're just little notion pouches or things of that nature, let me know down in the comments section, and I will get started working on those. This was as per request from one of the viewers, so I like to take into consideration as to some of the things you would like to see. All right, I'm going to do surgeon's knot on this one. Cut away the end here. Roll it back out and button up our little pouch. Here we go. So there's the one that we made from the tutorial, and here is the one that I made previously when I was trying to come up with a design for it. So here we are, our two little notions pouches. Be blessed, be a blessing, and until next time, bye for now.